Welcome back, and you're watching Breakfast Show on Nile TV International, and today we will be talking about the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, or actually the interview of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with Osama Kamal, marking 2 years of achievements in which the President answered questions that concerned the interest of the public. And joining us to shed more light on that topic is political analyst and journalist, Mr. Mohamed. Welcome with us and good morning.
A very good morning to you and to you,
and Ramadan Kareem.
And to all the viewers, and Ramadan Kareem to all our viewers as well.
Yes.
Mr. Mohamed, if we start from the very beginning regarding the achievements of the President, can you give us a quick review about these achievements?
Well, basically what Mrs. Rashid just mentioned about the televised interview which President al-Sisi gave for many Egyptian satellite channels about the achievements he did in the past 2 years. Just in brief, there are 8 national mega projects which have been launched since President al-Sisi came to office. The estimate cost of those 8 mega projects are around 1,040 billion Egyptian pounds, which is approximately 117 or 120 billion US dollars. So, and the biggest part of those investments, approximately 400 to 500 billion Egyptian pounds, goes to the electricity sector, which is extremely important because without electricity, we will not be able to have to attract investors to come invest, because there's not one single investor who will come to Egypt if he has no electricity to run his factory, for example. So this is in brief. Those are in brief the projects. Of course, there's the projects of the agriculture sector. Of course, is also a big part of those projects. 1.5 million acres are supposed to be recultivated in different areas of Egypt. And of course, there has been some investments in the road infrastructure as well. And of course, the Suez Canal corridor investments, not only the parallel canal, but also the free zone and all the other investment areas around it. And of course, there are 6 new cities which are supposed to be established, to be created during the past, currently are being constructed, actually, including the new capital of Egypt.
Now, actually, upon following saying his vows to the public and being inaugurated as president, the president started touring, a mega tour. Actually, he toured the Arab countries, the African countries, and also Europe and all over the world to first to spread the word that Egypt is stable, also that our government is legitimate based on the people's will, and also to bring in investments. The significance of these tours?
Actually, those tours actually started when he was still even Minister of Defense. And you remember probably his visit, his very famous visit to Russia, for example, which already showed in which direction the Egyptian government is going, and especially the army and the military at that time. And of course, after that, he toured many European countries as well as Gulf states as well, not only in order to attract investors, but also to go and prove to them and show them the new strategy and the new concept which Egypt is going to be implementing for its people and for its economy and for its political scene as well in Egypt. So apparently those tours which he started at the beginning were very fruitful, because afterwards we had so many states presidents and crown and kings.
Yes.
And different statespersons and ministers and important delegations. For example, the president of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who just visited Egypt a couple of days ago, they all came to Egypt during the past 2 years, and it shows that everyone is interested not only in supporting Egypt, but also in benefiting from the potential, from the economical potential which Egypt has actually for those countries and the industries there as well.
During his interview, the latest interview with Osama Kamal, President al-Sisi said that regarding the Suez Canal, it was not mainly directed to supporting economy, but it is to boost the morale of the Egyptians. So what do you think about this? What does he mean by this?
I think what he meant is that, like we did with the Sad Al Ali, for example, with the Aswan Dam, it's a mega project which is supposed to boost the morale of the people and show them if we all stick together, we'll be able to make great achievements. Of course, this is a positive side effect because you will not spend 60 billion or 50 billion pounds just to boost the morale of your people. I mean, you can make this much cheaper. So this is just a positive side effect. And of course, President Sisi is very smart in convincing, in giving people positive energy, of course. And I think this was the main point he had in mind when he said this to Osama Kamal. Of course, the people are already quite relieved. I mean, if we talk, if we, for example, just look at the security and safety situation we have in Egypt currently, it's much better than it has been over the past 4 to 5 years. It's improving step by step. It's not at its best. We still have terrorist attacks in Sinai every couple of days. But on the other hand, in all the other cities around Egypt, it's much safer than it has been in the past 4 or 5 years. But this does not mean that everything is so amazing and everything was so successful over the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, for example, there are a few sectors which need lots of homework. And for example, the prices of all the different products, some, of course, a lot of people complain about the food prices, for example.
Chicken and meat in particular.
Of course, and other people also complain about the car prices, for example. And I think this is a very important issue because actually mobility, the individual mobility for each and single individual is extremely important because you will not be able to build an economy if people find difficulties in traveling from one place to another or from their home to their workplace, for example. So mobility is extremely an important issue, and I think I think there's still lots to be done in this sector specifically. The car prices have risen during the past 15 or 18 months for approximately, in some cases, even up to 100%. And I think this needs to be tackled by the Ministry of Industry and also by the Customs Authority. And I think it's very important to rethink the current import regulations for foreign goods, especially that we spend so many foreign currencies, and especially the dollar crisis. Many importers claim that the overpricing in the goods is because of the dollar crisis we have in Egypt, and this is not 100% true. Actually, I think lots of the importers are actually exploiting the current situation and exploiting the Egyptian consumer.
It's their greed, actually.
It's an extreme greed, actually. And they have been exploiting the situation and exploiting the Egyptian consumer dramatically, actually, during the past 2 years. And I think it's very easy for the government to find some solutions for that. The easiest solution is to open the import for example, in the automotive sector, open the import for the import of used cars. If some authorities, they claim that Egypt imports around 200,000 cars a year. If we import around 200,000 cars a year, and each car has an average of $20,000, for example, this is $4 billion US. If we open the import for used cars, and of course not every used car, because the car needs to be roadworthy. This means it has to pass a roadworthiness test, like it is the case in all the European countries.
But definitely the car business tycoons, they will be trying
fighting
to fight it, of course. And they are
Mr.
very
Mohamed,
influential.
we have now a report about the Suez Canal. We're going to have a look at this report and come back to talk about the car prices. So please stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi officially inaugurated on the 6th of August 2015 the new Suez Canal as the ships passed through it in a wide-scale ceremony attended by the world leaders. At the celebration of the new Suez Canal inauguration, the President had congratulated the Egyptian people and those who worked in the project. He had announced that the project is the beginning of a number of national projects in transportation, land reform and aquaculture at the canal. Sisi added that the two projects previously announced by the state are set to start soon, the Suez Canal Access Development Project and the new capital city. The Suez Canal New Access is a mega project in Egypt that aims to increase the role of the Suez Canal region in the international trading and to develop the three canal cities, Suez, Ismailia and Port Said. The project includes the construction of a new city, an industrial zone, fish farms, completing the technology valley, building 7 new tunnels between Sinai and Ismailia and Port Said, as well as improving 5 existing ports and digging a new canal parallel to the Suez Canal. The new canal will increase the canal capacity by allowing the ships to sail into both directions at the same time for a greater proportion of the canal. The project will transfer the canal cities into an important trading center globally. It will also build new centers on the new Suez Canal for the logistic and the ship services. Meanwhile, the project's authority said that the revenues of the canal will increase from $5 billion to $12.5 billion yearly. The armed forces participate in the project by helping in designing and digging the canal and the tunnels. It also protects the project's location from terrorists in Sinai. Suez Canal traffic data revealed that 341 ships transited the canal with a total load of 18.88 million tons from 4 to the 10th of March of 2016. An average of 48.7 ships transited the canal per day during the past week with an average load of 2.7 million tons a day. The average load per ship was about 55,360 tons during that period. The Emirati National Marine Dredging Company played a key role in building the new waterway, dubbed the Suez Canal Access. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi successfully achieved the project, which is known as the Great Egyptian Dream, as it will help the economy of Egypt to reheal and turn the dream to a concrete reality.
السياسات بتاعتنا كانت البناء والحفاظ. أنا هتكلم عن البنية الأساسية. روحوا شوفوا اللي على الأرض اللي بيتعمل. إحنا خلصنا 3 مطارات. احنا بنتكلم على 5000 كيلو طرق طورناهم اثناء الموضوع يمكن وصلوا ل 5.5 133 كوبري في 20 شهر 1.5 مليون فدان من 4 مليون بنحاول نعمل دولة حقيقية إضافة كهرباء لمصر قد 50% من الطاقة الكهربائية اللي اتعملت فيك يا مصر على مدى تاريخها. الغاز المطلوب لمصانع مصر كلها والكل استخدامنا موجود خلاص. احنا في صدد عمل محطات معالجة خلال 1.5 سنة 2 لحجم مية قد اللي اتعمل في ال 20-30 سنة اللي فاتوا دول. العمل ده المصريين تحية للمصريين.
Welcome back, and we're continuing with our first segment of Breakfast Show, and we have still with us our guest, political analyst and journalist, Mr. Mohamed Sheta. Welcome back, Mr. Mohamed. And we were talking before the break about the automotive industry and a means of managing to solve the high prices in terms of cars and automotives, and you were suggesting the introduction or starting to import used cars, but cars in good condition. And we were saying but that the car tycoons, the businessmen who own the business in Egypt, most probably they will be resisting such a proposal.
Yes, of course. What I was saying is that the Egyptian government has been doing lots of progress in different sectors, agriculture sector, in many different sectors, but unfortunately the automotive sector has not witnessed any progress over the past couple of years. Not only during the past 5 years, but actually, in my personal opinion, over the past 20 years, there hasn't been any significant whatsoever. We don't have a so-called automotive industry like it is known in Europe, for example. We only have a couple of assembly factories which assemble actually, unfortunately, low-quality cars, with maybe one exception currently, a German car brand which is manufacturing extremely expensive cars, which have, of course, a much better quality than the locally assembled Korean cars, for example. So the overpricing which we have witnessed in Egypt during the past 1 year, for example, is not actually due to the so-called dollar crisis, which I think is a very man-made and actually business-made crisis here in Egypt by some of the key players in the automotive sector, because some car prices have risen up to 100%, and this is something which does not make any sense, even if you take into consideration that the dollar price rose, let's say, for example, 25% or even 30%. This does not mean that the whole car price has to rise 30%, because actually you only have this increase only on the base price, but not on the customs, because the customs are not paid in dollars. The customs for imported cars are paid in Egyptian pounds, for example. So there is a significant overpricing in the car industry currently, which is not reasonable at all. And I think the government has to countersteer this greed by the automotive assemblers and the automotive importers by actually creating new regulations which would allow the Egyptians to import used cars from Europe or from anywhere in the world, actually. And this would save us lots of money. If we take into, I'll give you an example. If we, for example, if we import 200,000 cars to Egypt every year, which some organizations like the so-called AMIC is claiming that we import 200,000 cars. This means at an average of $20,000 per car, this would mean $4 billion US. If we allow to import used cars, this would mean that a car which is currently sold in Egypt here, for example, let's say a German car, the famous car with the star. Yes. Let's say a 5-year-old car would here cost around 500,000 Egyptian pounds. The same car in a much better condition with the same age would cost in Europe, in Germany, only 10,000 euros. So this means you can get the same car which costs here 500,000 pounds, you can get it for 100,000 pounds only. So this means we would save a huge amount of foreign currencies, actually. And instead of importing cars for 4 billion, we would only, let's say, import 100,000 new cars for 2 billion and 100,000 used cars for 1 billion. So this means we would have saved $1 billion annually. And before the cars are allowed to drive on the Egyptian streets, each car should do a roadworthiness test, like it is the case all over the world in the developed countries. And such a roadworthiness test would cost you, let's say, between 1,000 pounds, for example, for each car, just to make sure that the car is safe. Because, of course, some greedy importers, they go get the cars from the scrap yards, for example, or like they do with the trucks and the buses currently in Egypt. This is why we have so many accidents involving trucks, because they go get the trucks which are not allowed, which do not pass the roadworthiness test in Europe and which are not allowed to drive on European roads, and they get them here and then they cause the accidents here. So in order to avoid this, each car should do a roadworthiness test. If we calculate a roadworthiness test at 1,000 pounds each car, this means for 100,000 cars, this is an additional 1 billion pounds income for the government. So actually, the Egyptian government and the Egyptian consumer, they would benefit in all ways. First of all, we would save lots of foreign currencies. The income of the customs authority would increase significantly. We would have less pollution because the cars driving in Europe, they have Euro 5 and Euro 6 emission standards. Here in Egypt, we only have Euro 2, which is, of course, polluting the air much more. And we would have less accidents because the active and passive safety features for the cars, the standard active and passive safety features for the cars in Europe are much, much better than the ones we have here. So I think this is something, I mean, if you look at all those details and those results, there's actually no reason why the government is not implementing this rule right now. Of course, you will have some people saying, well, this would harm the so-called automotive industry in Egypt. Actually, we do not have any automotive industry in Egypt. We just have one or two small factories. They're not even, for international standards, they're not even medium-sized companies. I mean, the biggest company here would be considered a small assembly factory. And on those small assembly factories, they are really producing the worst car quality I have ever seen anywhere in the world, especially those so-called Korean car brands and Korean models which are actually assembled here, or the American models which are assembled here. Actually, if you look at most of the accidents you see yourself on the roads, on the Da'iri road, on the Ring road, on the Mahwar road, you will always see one of those American or one of those Korean locally assembled cars involved in such accidents. Of course, because they have a larger market share than other cars, but also because they lack they lack all the possible active and passive safety features which are currently available in the market.
But the price craziness of the cars, the traders are saying that it is related to the dollar.
Yes.
When the dollar goes up, the prices of the cars goes up. Is this true?
No, of course not. Because actually, because when the dollar goes down, the prices don't go down. So this also already proves you that they're talking nonsense. Secondly, when the dollar price goes up 30%, for example, this 30% would only apply to the base price of the car, which is, let's say, $20,000, for example, the average price of a Korean or a Japanese car. Because actually the customs he pays them in Egyptian pounds. So if you look at the car prices at the increase, for example, when the dollar goes up 10%, you see the complete car price go up 20 or 30%, which does not make any sense. If you go to any car showroom, for example, you'll find the showroom empty. So then you go and ask, I need a car, I want this specific model. He tells you, well, it's not available, but I can send you to one of our distributors, and he has the car there, but you have to pay overprice of 50 or 60,000 Egyptian pounds. Most of those dealers, they have all their cars parked at their parking or at their storage areas. And for them, it's more beneficial to keep the cars there, because actually, while they're parked the cars there, the price keep on increasing and increasing without investing anything in the car. So actually, this is absolutely not true. And like I told you, if you calculate it very easily, you will find out that most of those overpricing is simply a very greedy strategy of not only of the importers, but also of the dealers and also of most of the local assemblers here in Egypt.
Mr. Mohamed, also I'd like to ask you about how do you assess the various projects in terms of urbanization and building of new cities, especially that recently the President has inaugurated a low-cost city, or actually a project, yes, in Al-Muqattam to replace the slum areas, yes, and to move the people living in the slums to a better environment and enjoy better conditions or living conditions. How do you assess the various projects, and would you tell us more about these new cities?
I think from a human point of view, this is one of the most important projects actually of those 8 national projects I mentioned earlier, because actually this Asmarat project you're talking about, the main goal of it is to get those low-income and medium-income people out of those inhumane areas where they're living, like Sheta and all these and all these other slum areas, and to get them and live in a modern and more civilized urban project. And I think this is extremely important. The fact is that we have, I think, over 5 million people living in slums, if I'm not mistaken, if the number is correct. Yes. This shows that something has to be done. And I was, to be honest, I was very surprised that the Egyptian military forces, they were really able to get involved in this project and finish this project in such a short period of time. And if they will be able to maintain this pace in continuing those urban projects for those low and medium income people, I think this will even create a much better understanding inside the Egyptian society itself, because the gap between the different
it's dangerous to any society, Mr. Mohamed. Sheta, thank you very much for joining us today, and happy Ramadan.
Thank you very much. Same to you and to all your viewers as well.
Thank you very much.
But first, let's have a look at a report about the new cities during the rule of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and we'll be back.